Non-league teams have been a massive part of the FA Cup since its formation all the way back in 1871. And today I want to take a look at the lowest ranked clubs to have ever played in the first round proper. These are all teams who were playing in the 9th tier at the time, and since the FA only granted entry to that level of the pyramid from the 1998-99 season, there have been very few to ever qualify for the first round. In fact, there's only 12 teams from the 9th tier to have ever played in the first round, and none of them have made it to the second round, though some did force a replay. I won't be ranking them 1 to 12, I'm just going to talk about them in order. So for example, Skelmersdale United, who are the last team from the 9th tier to make it to the first round, will be the last entry on this list, which of course means we'll have to go back to 1998 to find our first entries. The 1998-99 season was a great advert for non-league football, especially as the FA had made the decision to allow teams from the 9th tier to take part in the FA Cup qualifying, as 2 of them made it through to the first round proper, and both of them came from the Isthmian League Division 3. Ford United were drawn away at Preston North End after playing 8 qualifying matches, including 3 replays with draws in the first, second and third qualifying round ties. They beat Wellingborough Town, Barton Rovers, Woodbridge Town, Welwyn Garden City and Lowestoft Town on their way to making history before losing 3-0 at Deepdale, which is an extremely respectable scoreline given the vast difference between the two teams. You might not have heard of Ford United, but that's because they were renamed Redbridge FC in 2004, and since being renamed they've made it as far as the second round in the 2011-12 season, where they were beaten 5-0 at Crawley. Redbridge are currently playing in the Isthmian League Division 1 North, which is the 8th tier. The other 9th tier team to make the first round proper in 1998 was Camberley Town, though their path to the first round was more straightforward as none of their games went to replays, though they did have to play 4 of the 5 qualifying matches away from home. They beat Wokingham Town, Arundel, Ringmer, Braintree Town and St Blaise before exiting the competition at Brentford's Griffin Park, where their opponents' quality showed in a 5-0 loss. Camberley Town currently play in the Combined Counties League Premier Division, where they still sit in England's 9th tier, and have got nowhere near the FA Cup round since that season, though they did make it to the quarter-finals of the FA Vase in 2016, where they were unlucky to lose to newly formed Hereford FC at Edgar Street. Camberley Town are struggling in the league currently, where they sit just above the relegation zone in terms of league position, though points-wise they're way ahead of the bottom 2 with games in hand, so looking extremely unlikely to go down. After Ford United and Camberley Town, there was a 1-year gap before Bracknell Town reached the first round in the 2000-2001 season, and amazingly, just like Ford and Camberley, they were also playing in the Isthmian League Division 3. Bracknell beat Hillingdon Borough, Ashford Town, Merstham, Banstead Athletic and Aylesbury United before losing 4-0 to Lincoln City at Sincil Bank in the first round. They have reached the first round twice in the last 3 seasons. Although they're no longer a 9th tier club, they lost to Ipswich in the 22-23 season, then were beaten 2-1 away at Cambridge United the following year, so they have a decent history in the competition. Bracknell Town are playing in the Southern League Premier Division South these days, which is England's 7th tier, and they're currently sitting mid-table in the league, so they've seen a bit of a rise through the divisions since that crazy FA Cup run. In 2003, the first 9th tier team outside the Isthmian League made the first round proper. Shildon from the Northern League Division 1 beat Workington, Durham City, Frickley Athletic, Shirebrook and Stocksbridge Park Steels before they were utterly outplayed at Notts County's Meadow Lane, where they lost 7-2, but despite that hammering, they can say they were the first 9th tier team to ever score a goal in the FA Cup competition proper, which is definitely something to brag about. Durham-based Shildon are still playing in England's 9th tier, though they did spend a couple of seasons in the league above after winning promotion in 2021. Since their famous cup run of 2003-04, Shildon have come close to reaching the first round proper on 2 occasions. They lost a 4th qualifying round tie 6-0 to Guiseley in 2017 and took Norton United to a replay in 2014, so considering the level they're playing at, they have an impressive record in the FA Cup. Shildon's 2012-13 FA Vase run deserves a mention here too, as they were a 1 game away from an appearance at Wembley as they lost in the semi-finals to Tunbridge Wells on aggregate. The following season saw Coalville Town of the Midland Alliance reach the first round proper. And the most impressive thing about their achievement is this was their first ever season in the competition. Coalville Town's first ever FA Cup match was an extra preliminary round tie against Daventry Town, which they won 3-0. Then followed that up with wins over Gedling Town, Deeping Rangers, Rushall Olympic, Willenhall Town and Liversedge, before they absolutely did themselves proud in a 1-0 defeat at Wickham in the first round proper. Coalville Town have reached the first round since that season, though they weren't playing in the 9th tier at the time. They made it all the way in 2022 after famously beating Notts County in the 4th qualifying round, before being beaten at Charlton Athletic in the 1st, whilst playing in the Southern Premier Division Central. Sadly, due to some financial issues that almost left the club bankrupt, their long-serving chairman Glyn Rennox had to step down at the end of the 2023-24 season, and as a result they've had to resign from the Southern League and drop into the United Counties League Division 1, which is the 10th tier. I've visited Coalville Town on a couple of occasions, I've even played there, so I hope they can sort their finances out soon and return to where they belong. And let's hope we'll see them competing in the FA Cup again soon. 2005-06 was the second of only 3 seasons to ever see 2 9th tier teams qualifying for the first round proper. Like Coalville Town the previous season, both teams came from the Midland Alliance, and one of them would go on to have an even better run in the Cup just a couple of years later. I know which team you're thinking of, as they were mentioned several times in the comments when I asked about 9th tier teams in a post on Facebook. You're thinking of Chasetown, aren't you? Chasetown are not only one of the only 9th tier teams to make it to the first round proper, but until Marine's run to the 3rd round in 2023, they were the only team from the 8th tier to ever play in the 3rd round proper. That's a subject for another video though. We are of course talking about the lowest ranked teams to ever reach the first round, and no 9th tier team has ever made the 2nd as of yet, so let's talk about Chasetown's 2005 FA Cup run. Chasetown had to play 8 matches before the first round, and with their replay against Oldham Athletic, the first time a 9th tier team had forced a first round replay, their run totalled 10 games. They beat Causeway United and Gedling Town in the first 2 qualifying rounds, then needed replays to overcome Belper Town, Cogganhoe United and Blythe Spartans to reach the competition proper. Chasetown even led Oldham in the first round for 8 minutes before the League One team equalised. But with 6 divisions separating them, the draw was an incredible result, and sadly Chasetown were outplayed in the replay, losing 4-0 at Boundary Park. Chasetown are still playing in the 8th tier currently, in the Northern Premier League Division 1 West, but their recent FA Cup antics make them probably one of the best known teams at this level of the game. The other Midland Alliance team in the first round that season was Leamington. They beat Sutton Town, Kidsgrove Athletic, Oadby Town, Woodford United and Ossett Town in the qualifying rounds, before being on the end of one of the highest scorelines in recent FA Cup history, when they lost 9-1 at Colchester United, though that tie is mostly remembered by the stunning consolation goal scored by Leamington's Richard Adams in the 72nd minute. Although Leamington are playing at a higher level than any of the other teams on this list currently, the National League North, they haven't returned to the FA Cup first round proper since that famous run of 2005. Despite Leamington competing with much bigger clubs such as Kidderminster, Hereford, Scunthorpe and Chester in England's 6th tier, they're holding their own at this level. And despite relegation to the Southern League Premier Division Central in 2023, they bounced straight back to the National League North via the playoffs in 2024. I've been meaning to get down to the new Windmill ground in recent years, so I'll definitely be seeing that through over the next few months, as I'm told it's well worth a visit. In recent years, the gap between the divisions is starting to grow, and I think that's demonstrated by the time between these next few entrants. In the 2008-2009 season, Eastern Counties Premier Division side Leiston beat Blackstones, Marchtown United, Cornard United, Carshalton Athletic, one of our previous entrants Coalville Town, and then Lewes before taking then National League North side Fleetwood Town to a replay, where they eventually lost 2-0. Leiston have enjoyed a bit of a rise since that season and are currently playing in the Southern Premier Division Central, which is England's 7th tier. They have come very close to returning to the FA Cup competition proper on 4 occasions, including this current season where they've fallen in the 4th qualifying round. And it was this season's FA Cup heroes Dagenham and Redbridge who knocked them out this year, though it was a 5-1 home loss to the side who eventually lost to Millwall in the 3rd round. Leiston are enjoying a strong season in the Southern League and could find themselves as high as the National League South should they keep playing like they have been, despite bringing in much lower average crowds than most of the rest of their league. The 2010-11 season was the last time we've seen 2 teams from the 9th tier getting to the competition proper. The first of those is Tipton Town from the Midland Alliance, who beat Alvechurch, Stratford Town, Norton United, Market Drayton, Radcliffe and Sheffield before taking a 6-0 hammering at League One Carlisle United. Things haven't been great for the club since that FA Cup run, however, as in the years since they've found themselves falling as low as England's 12th tier, though they did win promotion back to the 11th tier at the end of last season. Tipton Town are currently playing in the West Midland League Premier Division and haven't taken part in any of the FA Cup competitions since their FA Vars qualifier against Abbey Holton United, where they lost 3-2 away from home. That was in 2019, and as the FA Vars minimum entry requirements are to be playing in the 10th tier, it might be some time before we see Tipton Town in the Vars, let alone the FA Cup again. The other 9th tier team to make it to the first round proper in 2010 was Hythe Town of the Kent Premier League. And I remember Hythe Town very well, considering they were drawn away at my Hereford United. As a Hereford fan, we've learned never to take anyone for granted, and I wasn't particularly confident ahead of that game, but luckily we beat our 9th tier opponents 5-1 at Edgar Street. Hythe Town had beaten Bookham, Deal Town, Epsom and Ewell, Erith and Belvedere, Concord Rangers and Staines Town during their cup run, without needing a single replay along the way, and I do remember feeling nervous when Gary Micklesborough scored at Edgar Street to bring it back to 2-1, but luckily Hereford managed to get the job done. Hythe Town may not have gotten anywhere near the FA Cup first round since that day at Edgar Street, but they did reach the 4th round of the FA Trophy last season. They're currently playing in the Isthmian League South East Division, which is the 8th tier of English football, and their Reachfield Stadium is an impressive one considering their level on the pyramid. They are struggling in a relegation battle currently though.
The adventure ends here for Hythe Town.
After Tipton Town and Hythe Town, there was a 5-year wait to see another club from the 9th tier reaching the first round proper. And this next entry is not only a club I've played against many times, but I actually made a few appearances for their under-18s and senior teams. It's Hereford-based Westfields, and out of all the respective qualifying campaigns, Westfields probably have the most impressive record on this list. They stormed into the first round. Westfields scored 23 goals across their 6 qualifying matches, even beating one of our previous entries, Leiston, in the final qualifying round, before they were given a less than ideal home tie against National League North side Curzon Ashton. No disrespect to Curzon, but when you do make it all the way to the first round proper, you don't want to be drawn against another non-league team. You want to play away to the biggest team possible. And Westfields were 9 minutes away from being the first ever 9th tier team to reach the second round. A Craig Jones penalty had put them ahead after just 9 minutes, and the National League North side were unable to find the equaliser until Adam Morgan scored in the 81st minute. Sadly, the Midland Premier League side were outplayed in the replay, which Curzon ended up winning 3-1 and went on to play AFC Wimbledon in the second round, which would have been a great tie for Fields. Westfields Allpay Park is a neat little ground which backs onto Hereford's Edgar Street, and they're still playing in England's 9th tier, in the Hellenic League Premier Division. And that brings us to the last 9th tier team to ever play in the competition proper, which, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, it's Skelmersdale United. And as they made it to the first round proper in the 2020-21 season, that means there's been a 5-year gap since we've seen a team of their level going so far. So maybe we're due another one next season. Maybe it'll be one of the teams I visited earlier on in my Road to Wembley series. Who knows? But one thing's for certain, I'll always be rooting for those teams. Skelmersdale United, then of the North West Counties League Premier Division, beat Penistone Church, Coalville Town, Bootle, Lancaster City, Longridge Town and Stafford Rangers in an impressive run that didn't require a single replay before they were drawn away at Hythe Town in the first round. And they were well beaten by the League Two side on the day in a game that saw them fall behind after just 47 seconds, but they did manage to compose themselves after it looked like they might be on the end of an absolute hiding. A 4-1 defeat away from home against a team 5 leagues higher than you is respectable after all. Skelmersdale United were relegated from the North West Counties Premier last season, finishing bottom of the table, and after being evicted from their home at Stormy Corner and with a number of financial problems, it looks as though the club are in free fall as they currently sit bottom of the First Division, England's 10th tier, and they're 20 points adrift of safety. I hope they manage to turn their fortunes around, but the future looks pretty bleak for Skelmersdale United, and I don't think we'll see them playing in the FA Cup again anytime soon. But at least you still have those memories of that afternoon in Harrogate. So, those are the lowest ranked teams to ever play in the FA Cup competition proper. Let me know what you thought of this list in the comments, subscribe, and why not check out some of my Road to Wembley vlogs. I visited 2 9th tier teams on my journey and they were both fantastic clubs. I will be attempting to visit all 12 of these clubs mentioned in this video at some point over the next year or so. It'll most likely be next season now, as I do have several other matchday vlogs planned alongside the remaining Road to Wembley ones. Thanks for watching, and let me know in the comments what video you'd like to see me do next. Remember, you can also join the channel to have your ideas pushed forward, but my videos will always be free, so there's no obligation to do so. That's